Hello people, it's been a long while. You guys probably forgot about me or thought I fell into a hole and died, but no, I just hit a bit of a rough patch, so it was kinda hard for me to play games and make videos. But I'm back, and it's because I wanted to play this game called Aragami 2, and the main reason I wanted to play it was because it reminded me of an old game series called Tenchu. And after playing it, all I can say is that there's a pretty good foundation here, but so much more could have been done to make a better experience, so let's just dive in. Now, one of the main things that reminded me of Tenchu, aside from you playing a ninja, was actually the game's level design. You see, what made Tenchu stick out back in the day, aside from it being one of the earliest iterations of a 3D stealth game, was actually its level design. You see, Tenchu had a bit of non-linearity to its levels. You actually had to explore them to accomplish your tasks, and there was a bit of added verticality with things like the grappling hook, which allowed you to go up like roofs, trees, or to find different paths within a level. It was pretty cool. Well, Aragami is similar in that sense, where the levels are actually open-ended maps with a lot of verticality. Main differences being you can actually see more than 2 feet in front of you, and the controls are a lot more snappy. Movement in this game feels very seamless, with you being able to double jump, dash in any direction, or even dash to pillars and ledges. So because of that, traversing the levels feels really quick and fun. It's so quick to the point that you can actually speedrun levels. But as fun as it is to traverse the levels, there's a problem with the levels, and it's because they're so fucking repetitive. So pretty much the game is split up into a select few of maps with different missions within them. So you're pretty much returning to the same areas, but maybe just doing different objectives. So instead of killing a target, you might be stealing a document, and instead of stealing a document, you might be freeing a prisoner or something like that. The issue with it though is that there's not enough variance in the levels to make them feel unique. There's barely any change to their structure, or every now and then it might open up a new section to that level for the mission, but it's not enough to make it feel distinct. The problem I have with the levels is that they lack a sense of identity. Yes, they do have different themes. You might be in the mountains, or you might be in the mines, or something like that. But the game reuses a lot of assets, or at least I can't really tell the difference between them. So everything would just look the same in my head for the most part. And everything was the same because for about 4 hours I was going through the same looking levels, doing the same objectives like eavesdropping, collecting documents, killing targets, and so forth. And of course, a game is going to have a core gameplay loop, but the important part is adding things within that gameplay loop to make it feel fresh. The thing is that the game is not doing enough of that. Like, sure, they would change enemy placements and patterns within the map, like, of course, that's expected, but the thing is that it would not change your methods. Which brings me to the next point, the stealth and tools at your disposal. Now, there are some things I like about the stealth, but it's like the basis values that you would see in any stealth games. For example, it has to be enjoyable to sneak around enemies, going up to them, taking them down, or doing assassinations. And like I said before, movement feels really fun. And for the most part, assassinations and takedowns feel pretty satisfying, and what I appreciate is that the animations are rather quick. Although they can be buggy at times with you like clipping through stuff, but it's not enough to break the game or get you in trouble, so I didn't mind it that much. But the problem I have with the stealth is that you have a lot of tools at your disposal, but there's not a huge need for them. I went through most of the game using just one ability, and that ability was Whisper, where I can like target an enemy and distract them to come near me so I can take them down. And every now and then I can count maybe 4 times in my playthrough that I used invisibility. But every other ability, or even sub-items and so forth, I had really no use for them. And the reason I had no use for them is because the enemies in this game are severely brain damaged. I swear, the enemies in this game have the peripheral vision or just general eyesight of Mr. Magoo, and they can barely hear anything either. It's like you can jump behind them and they will not hear you. It's as if they're listening to their fucking Spotify playlist or something. It's unbelievable. There were many times in my playthrough that I should have been spotted, but I just wasn't because these enemies don't think. Or look, apparently, because there was moments where I'd be hanging off a ledge that any regular person in real life would see that there's a humanoid hanging off a ledge in front of them, but they just would not look. And on top of the AI just being stupid, because your movement abilities are so strong, you can actually abuse the AI way too easily. Like I said, all the tools you really need is maybe Whisper and just you dashing around everywhere, because enemies don't hear anything even if you jump directly behind them. So getting an S rank on all the levels, like not being detected and knocking out all the enemies or killing them all, is incredibly easy. Every mission I've played, I've gotten an S rank, and I've completed these missions within 3 to 10 minutes. But you see, that brings me to the point. The levels are incredibly repetitive, and the AI is really fucking brain dead. But the thing is that the game makes it really easy to sort of speedrun it, and that in itself can actually feel kind of fun. Just jumping around, dashing through bushes, going up ledges and pillars, finding your objectives, quickly accomplishing them, and then escaping. I find if the game actually focused on something like that and actually made distinct levels instead of like the same 4 maps, the game would actually be really fun. But instead what it feels like is just a game that's incredibly padded out. And that's the thing, it's not only held back by brain dead AI and repetitive levels, it's also held back by a terrible fucking combat system. This combat system just does not feel good. They tried to go for something similar to Sekiro, where you have to focus on deflecting an enemy's attack and then knocking them off balance so you can go for an execution, except it feels nowhere near as refined. The animations just feel clunky, and the window to deflect is really unpredictable. It can feel really generous at times, and in other times not so much. It's like trying to piss into a shot glass across the room. It's just really messy. But thankfully, the main focus of the game is on the stealth, so you don't really have to get into combat situations, aside from maybe some missions where you have to do like a shitty boss battle or something like that. And the final thing to talk about is the story, and all I can say about the story is that I tuned the fuck out and I really did not care. It was just kind of hard to really grasp anything, and that's because I was just like pretty fucking bored with it, and I was just thrown off by like the wonky animations and the cutscenes and the weird voice acting and the writing. It's just, I really didn't care. I'm sorry. There's even other things that kind of hold the game back. For example, there really is no use to money. It's like, yes, you can buy like support items like shurikens and stuff, but like I said, you really don't need any of those tools because your movement abilities and whisper is strong enough. And the different equipment you can get, I think, is primarily for aesthetics. I don't think they really increase any stats. So it really does just feel like a game padded out with content that it really doesn't need. So yeah, what I would have done to improve this game is this. So for one, I would refine the movement even more. The movement does feel really good already, except it does suffer from moments where you kind of get stuck to ledges and stuff just not responding properly. It's rare, but still an issue in itself, so if it was even more refined, I think it would be really good for the game. Another one is definitely improving the enemy AI, because they can barely see or hear. It's just too easy to abuse them, and there's not enough that makes me change my methods. I would love to make use of more of these ninja abilities, except I never found a use for them. I got through the game with incredible ease, getting S rank on everything, barely using any of the abilities. But I'd say the biggest issue with the game is how repetitive the levels are. If they created more distinct, handcrafted levels, this game would be 10 times more enjoyable. Because for the most part, I was just wondering to myself, like, when is this game gonna end? Because I was getting so fucking bored of seeing the same shit over and over again. And that's the thing, they didn't have to make a bunch of missions either. Even if they cut down on the amount of content, it would still be better because at least it's distinct and fresh. And that's the biggest issue, because it feels incredibly dry. So yeah, there's a good foundation here simply because of the traversal abilities. The movement makes it really fun to sort of speedrun levels and get them done as quickly as possible while getting the highest rank. The main things I need to improve is making actually distinct levels, improving the AI, as well as making me change my methods as a player. On top of that, the combat is pretty fucking atrocious, so that definitely needs to be improved, and the story was just kind of weird, and there's just a bunch of padded out content that doesn't really need to be there. There's some good to be seen here, but it can just be so much better. Anyhow, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Peace.